Get ready to really dive deep into a case from India that has family feuds, suicide accusations against a judge.
Wow.
We're looking at a court document that details a transit anticipatory bail application. And that sounds complicated. But imagine if you're worried about being arrested in another state.
Right.
This type of bail is a way to try to get ahead of that.
I see.
So what's fascinating here is how this case unfolds across state lines.
Right.
And it adds another layer of complexity to an already emotionally charged situation.
It does.
So let's start by introducing you to the key players.
Okay.
At the heart of this is Atul Subhash.
Okay.
He tragically took his own life.
Wow.
And his brother, Bikas Kumar, is alleging that Atul's wife, Nikita Singhania, and her family were involved in driving him to suicide.
Oh, wow.
And that's where these accusations get really serious.
Okay.
We're not just talking about general harassment. There are allegations of false legal cases that were filed against Atul and demands for large sums of money.
And we're talking.
We're talking crores and lakhs of rupees here.
Okay.
And just to give you an idea, that translates to millions and hundreds of thousands in U.S. dollars.
Wow. Okay.
So specifically, Atul's mother-in-law, Nisha Singhania, she's accused of demanding 3 crore rupees to settle those legal cases.
Right.
And another 30 lakhs just for Atul to see his own 4-year-old son.
Wow.
So family disputes, especially related to money and children, are unfortunately not that uncommon.
Right.
But what makes this case particularly compelling is the suicide note that Atul left behind. And this note doesn't just hint at things. It directly accuses Nisha Singhania and a family court judge, Simvat Rita Kaushik, of pushing Atul to take his own life.
Really?
And you can see how powerful suicide note can be as evidence in a case like this.
It definitely adds significant weight to the accusations, especially because it names specific individuals.
Exactly.
So the note itself is worth examining closely.
Okay.
So, for example, instead of just saying the judge was bad, Atul details specific actions and decisions that he felt were unjust and contributed to his despair.
So now we come to Sushil Singhania.
Okay.
He's Atul's uncle-in-law, and he's the one seeking this transit anticipatory bail.
Okay.
The note does mention him,
but
the accusations seem to be of a different nature.
So while Nikita and Nisha are accused of driving Atul to suicide, the allegations against Sushil are more focused on threats of violence and legal action. It doesn't directly claim he instigated the suicide.
Okay, and that distinction might be really important for his legal strategy. But I have to ask, wouldn't Sushil's age, he's 69, and his claims of having a chronic medical condition actually make him more likely to get bail?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of how courts weigh different factors in these situations.
Okay.
So you're right that his age and health could make detention seem more risky or potentially harmful. But the court also has to consider the seriousness of the accusations and whether he poses a flight risk or a danger to others.
So let's unpack this transit anticipatory bail.
Okay.
He's applying for this in Uttar Pradesh.
Right.
But the suicide happened, and the case is registered in Karnataka. So he's essentially asking for temporary protection in one state while he tries to get to another state to deal with the case there.
Exactly.
So his argument is that if he's arrested in Karnataka right away, it could cause irreversible damage to his reputation and health before he even gets a chance to defend himself. And his defense is further claiming he's a victim of a trial by media. Remember that viral video we mentioned? They're saying that the court of public opinion has already judged him because of it.
Wow.
So it makes you wonder, does that create an unfair disadvantage even before he steps foot in the courtroom?
That's a complex issue.
It is.
On one hand, everyone is entitled to the presumption of innocence. But on the other hand, the court can't completely ignore the potential impact of widespread media attention.
So the court in this case referenced a landmark case, Priya versus State of Karnataka, and it outlined specific conditions for granting this type of bail. Can you break that down for us a little?
Sure.
What are they looking for before granting some of this kind of protection?
The Priya Indoria case basically sets a high bar for granting transit anticipatory bail. The court has to be convinced that the arrest would cause irreparable injury to the applicant. They also have to look at the applicant's past conduct, the nature and seriousness of the accusations, and whether there are any other less restrictive measures that could be taken to ensure the person appears in court.
So they're really weighing the potential harm of arresting him against the risk of him fleeing or interfering with the investigation if he's not detained.
It's a balancing act.
It is.
And the court in this case ultimately decided to grant Sushil this transit anticipatory bail for 4 weeks, giving him time to get to Karnataka and approach the appropriate court there.
But it's important to remember, this isn't a verdict of innocence.
Absolutely not.
It just means the court, for the time being, felt the potential harm of immediate arrest outweighed the risks associated with granting him this limited period of protection. This case is already so fascinating.
It is.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know.
I can't wait to dig into the court's reasoning. And what this whole situation reveals about the Indian legal system.
There are definitely some surprising twists and turns ahead.
And
we'll be unraveling them all in the next part of this deep dive.
Sounds good. Okay, so we're back.
Yes.
Diving deeper into this captivating legal case.
It is.
From India.
Yeah.
Last we left off, the court had granted Sushil Singhania this transit anticipatory bail, giving him a window to get to Karnataka and present his case. And as we discussed, that decision doesn't mean the court believes he's innocent. It's more about procedural fairness and ensuring he has the opportunity to defend himself.
Absolutely.
But some might argue that granting bail does imply some level of belief in his innocence.
That's a valid point.
What do you think?
It highlights the public perception aspect of these legal decisions. While legally, it's just about ensuring due process for the average person. Seeing someone granted bail can feel like the system is siding with them. It's a tricky balance.
So what were the court's specific reasons for granting this bail? What convinced them this was the right course of action?
The court's decision heavily references the idea of irremediable and irreversible prejudice. If Sushil was denied bail, they're essentially saying that arresting him now might cause more harm than good, especially given his age and his claims of a medical condition.
And that ties back to what we were discussing earlier about how the court balances different factors. His age and health might have tipped the scales in favor of granting bail, but it doesn't erase the seriousness of the allegations against him. And the court made that very clear.
They did.
They emphasized that Sushil still needs to cooperate with the investigation, appear for questioning when required, and adhere to other conditions of the bail.
It's a temporary reprieve, not a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Okay, so he has this 4-week window to travel to Karnataka and address the case there. But what happens after that?
Well,
can they just arrest him again once that time is up?
It's not quite that simple. At that point, Sushil will need to apply for regular anticipatory bail. Or regular bail from the courts in Karnataka. And the conditions and likelihood of getting that will depend on how the investigation progresses and the strength of the evidence against him.
So this whole situation really underscores how intricate legal systems can be.
They are.
It's not just about who's right or wrong. It's about navigating procedures. Presenting evidence and arguing legal points. And for someone like Sushil, who's already dealing with the emotional weight of these accusations and the media scrutiny, it must feel incredibly overwhelming. Not to mention the grief and anger that Atul's brother must be feeling. And the pressure on Nikita and her family as they face these serious allegations. It's a stark reminder.
It is.
That behind all the legal jargon, there are real people grappling with immense personal turmoil.
And it's important to remember that we're only getting one side of the story through this court document. We don't yet know how Nikita or her family are framing the events or what their defense strategy might be.
That's true.
Yeah.
But even from this limited perspective, we can see how deeply personal and complex this case is.
Very much so.
It's not just a straightforward legal battle. It's about family relationships, financial disputes, and ultimately the tragic loss of a life. And it also raises questions.
It does.
About the larger context of suicide in India.
Right.
Cases like this often spark discussions about the pressures individuals face, the lack of adequate support systems, and the need for greater awareness of mental health issues.
It's a sobering thought.
It is.
And it compels us to think about the societal factors that might contribute to such tragedies.
Let's circle back to the legal nuances for a moment.
Right.
The court made an interesting distinction between abetment and harassment when analyzing the suicide note.
That distinction is crucial.
Yeah.
Remember, the note accuses Nisha and the judge of instigating the suicide, which falls under abetment, meaning they're accused of actively encouraging or assisting in the suicide. But the allegations against Sushil, like the threats of violence and legal action, seem more aligned with harassment, which doesn't necessarily imply direct incitement to suicide.
So you're saying that legal nuance might have played a role in the court's decision to grant him bail?
It's definitely a possibility.
Okay.
The court might have seen the accusations against him as less severe legally, which would have factored into their decision.
Okay.
It highlights how precise language, especially in legal documents like a suicide note, can have profound implications.
Like every word, every phrase carries a legal weight that can tip the balance of a case.
Precisely.
And that brings us back to another fascinating aspect of this case.
Okay.
The role of media and public opinion.
Yeah.
Sushil's claim of facing a media trial adds a layer of complexity to the legal proceedings.
It does.
Right. We talked earlier about the potential for unfair bias from that viral video.
Yeah.
But how much weight should the court give to public opinion?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Ideally, the legal process should be impartial and focused solely on the evidence presented. But it's also naive to think that judges are completely immune to public pressure or the prevailing narratives surrounding a case.
It's a delicate balance.
It is.
You want justice to be served, but you also want to protect the integrity of the legal process.
Yeah.
And ensure it's not swayed by external factors.
And that's where things get tricky.
Yeah.
How do you, as the listener, balance the desire for justice with the principle that everyone deserves a fair trial, even if public opinion has already deemed them guilty?
It's a question that goes beyond this specific case and touches on the very foundation of our legal systems and how we as a society define justice. This case really throws a spotlight on the human side of legal battles, doesn't it?
It does.
And we've got a family torn apart by tragedy, accusations flying back and forth, and the immense pressure of public scrutiny, thanks to that viral video.
It's a potent reminder that behind the legal arguments and court procedures, there are real lives at stake.
And it makes you think, how would you feel if you were in Sushil's shoes? Facing accusations, navigating a complex legal system, all while dealing with this emotional turmoil, this situation.
It's a lot to process.
It is.
And we haven't even touched on the potential long-term consequences for everyone involved.
Regardless of the final verdict.
Exactly. Reputations are on the line. Relationships are fractured. And there's the ongoing grief and trauma that Atul's suicide has inflicted on everyone connected to this case.
Let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the bigger picture. This case isn't just about one family or one legal battle. It raises broader questions about suicide prevention and mental health awareness.
Absolutely.
Particularly in India.
Sadly, suicide rates in India are a serious concern.
They are.
And cases like this often bring those issues to the forefront of public discussion. It forces us to ask what support systems are in place for people who are struggling. How can we as a society create an environment where individuals feel comfortable seeking help and where mental health is treated with the same importance as physical health.
These are difficult but essential questions.
They are.
And while this case is undeniably tragic, perhaps it can serve as a catalyst for these important conversations and for positive change.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a more compassionate and supportive society. Sometimes simply listening without judgment can make a world of difference to someone who is struggling.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways you would want our listener to remember?
I think this case clearly illustrates the power of a suicide note as evidence in legal proceedings. It can shape the narrative, influence public perception, and even sway legal decisions.
And it also highlights the importance of due process.
Yes.
Even when public opinion might have already reached a verdict. The presumption of innocence is a cornerstone of our legal systems. And Sushil Singhania, despite facing serious allegations, was granted bail to ensure he has a fair chance to defend himself.
Absolutely.
This case also offers a glimpse into the complexities of Indian law, specifically the nuanced distinctions between abetment and harassment in suicide cases. These legal subtleties can have a huge impact on how a case unfolds and what legal strategies are employed. And we can't ignore the role of media and public opinion.
Of course.
In shaping the narrative surrounding this case. That viral video and the claims of a media trial bring up important ethical considerations about fairness, the potential for bias, and the responsibility we all have in consuming and sharing information responsibly. Now, before we go, I want to leave our listener with a thought-provoking question. Imagine for a moment that you were the judge in this case. What factors would you weigh most heavily in making your decision? Think about the severity of the accusations. The evidence presented the potential for irreparable harm if bail is denied, and the overall pursuit of justice.
It's a complex decision.
It is.
With far-reaching consequences. And it highlights the delicate balance our legal systems strive to achieve between protecting individual rights and ensuring accountability for actions.
This deep dive has been a journey.
It has.
Into the heart of a legal battle. But it's also been an exploration of human emotions, societal issues, and the ethical dilemmas that arise when tragedy intersects with the law.
It's a reminder that every case has a human story behind it. And that legal outcomes have real-world impacts.
They do.
That extend far beyond the courtroom.
Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
On this exploration of a fascinating and complex case.
Yeah.
We hope it sparked your curiosity and given you plenty to ponder.